We're back for your ears only. I'm Melissa Axelberth.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. It was filled with vulgar language, and during the reading, I just dropped the words because no 18-year-old farm girl would use those words. That was young straight-laced actress Joan Roberts after a first reading of the script for the 1943 Broadway show Oklahoma, in which she starred. One of the last remaining members of that classic cast, Roberts died last week at 95. Co-star Celeste Holm died last month at the same age. Now this.
I saw something interesting the other day. I was driving in New Jersey, and I got lost, and I always get lost in New Jersey. That whole state looks the same to me. Well, I think they have 7 people and 9 trees, and they keep moving it down the road.
So began comic David Brenner's record run on NBC's Tonight Show, 158 appearances plus 75 hosting gigs, starting on January 8th, 1971. More recently, Brenner's brand of current events-based comedy has made him a frequent guest on cable news, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, when not ensconced in a Las Vegas showroom or other venue around the country. But for nearly 20 years, Brenner has managed to avoid a major gig in New York City, where he began building stand-up chops at clubs like Catch a Rising Star, Gotham Comedy, and the Improv.
That estrangement ends this week with Brenner's 3-night run at the Metropolitan Room Cabaret on West 22nd Street in Manhattan. And for a preview, plus some thoughts on his career and comedy generally, for your ears only, we're pleased to have David Brenner on the line now. Welcome to our show.
Wow, thanks a lot. That was a great intro. That takes me back, that was from the first appearance I made on The Tonight Show.
That's why we picked it.
Clip.
It's hysterically funny. I live in New Jersey. So what kept you away so long?
Well, Jersey's changed. They now have 12 people and 18 trees.
Well, what kept you away from New York for so long?
Well, I never, to me, New York City was my home. So I didn't want to work there. I worked there. I played Radio City Music Hall 3 nights early on, and got other offers for Carnegie Hall and places. I always thought of New York as my home, and I didn't want to be strange. I didn't want to work in my home, but I did work out every night. I started at Pips in Brooklyn and the Improv and Catch a Rising Stars you mentioned, and all the other clubs. But they were just where I wrote material because I write on stage. And then I moved to Union Square, and the Gotham was right around the corner, practically 5 blocks away. It was on 22nd Street then, and it's now on 23rd. But the original room, which is the Metropolitan Room where I'm playing, is the original Gotham. So as a payback, I did this through my whole career. As a payback, thank you, I worked these little clubs where I used to work. And the only one left in New York is the Gotham, now the Metropolitan Room, a singer's room. I think it seats maybe 130 people, that's all. I wrote a lot of some of my best material there. And so I got together with Chris, the owner, and I said, listen, I'd like to just do some sets here. And we worked it out. I'm working those 3 nights, and it's sort of a payback thank you engagement.
But you've said you actually prefer nightclub audiences to those at the traditional comedy clubs. Why?
Comedy clubs now, first of all, they're catered to the 18 to 35-year-old. That's not my demographic. Only maybe 10, 15% of my demographic is that. So anybody 40 and up, it's not their brand of comedy. They don't go to comedy clubs. I play comedy clubs. I draw my demographic, which is great for the club, because now they'll keep an eye to see who's coming in. But usually they don't go.
Given all your appearances on The Tonight Show and guest hosting, did you ever have any aspiration to inherit the desk full-time?
Oh, absolutely. I had that aspiration from before I even, when I was just appearing on the show. I had that aspiration. I studied Johnny Carson. I took his place. I was, I learned from him, and I loved it. I thought it was the best job in television, and I was up for it. But, and I rarely ever talk about this, I was up for it. And 1991, I had a son turning 9 who was abandoned, and I thought I was saving him, and I got charged with kidnapping instead. And I spent the next 4.5 years in the Supreme Court of New York fighting for custody. So I was only allowed to work 50 nights a year under the law, or I'd be an absentee father and lose my son. So I abandoned. I didn't abandon. I put the career on the back burner, and that included taking my name off of the list for the Tonight Show.
Let's talk a little bit about comedy and current events, if that's not redundant, or what some people call a Republican presidential campaign. Did you get a lot of material from that?
Well, it's interesting. 10 years ago, I've been credited with starting observational comedy, which, Seinfeld and Shandling and most comedians do to this day. Then in 2000, I switched to news and current events mostly, which I always had peppered in there, but I switched. And then I had the open field. I was the guy doing, current events and news. And then bless these talented guys, Bill Maher and Louis Black and Colbert and Jon Stewart and it's just brilliant. They came along, and now the young guys are doing current events in the news. So I'm like an also-ran again. So now I'm working on something that no one else can do. It's a new act, and I always put in news and current events, but it's a new act based on something that only I can do, and everybody can understand and appreciate and attach themselves to, and that is getting older and dying. I'm doing both, and there aren't that many. There may be some young guys who are dying, but they're not getting older. So, see, I'm one of the few guys who like I go in the kitchen and I don't know why, or I go into the bathroom, I know why, but I can't, and so. The young guys, they can appreciate it. And young people, we all have, young people, like when I was young, you have parents, you have neighbors, you have relatives, you have friends who are old and you laugh at them. And, Mel Brooks said we mock the things we are to be. And we all laugh at it. And then one day, it's you, So I do that, and it's going over great. I mean, it's great. And I'm just hoping, like, these young comedians don't age suddenly and start doing it. And I'll be an also-ran at my age. I can't run that much at my age. So
you got to cut them down while they're still young.
Yeah.
We're glad we remembered to call you. David Brenner plays at Manhattan's Metropolitan Room at 7 p.m. on August 22nd, 23rd, and 25th.
Next, Another Kind of Light, special songs for your ears only.